Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse, and more specifically from beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Corellian tradition. And this is Midday with Reverend Don. Welcome. And I hope that wherever you are, you're having a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it may be for you. And I'm happy to spend this midday with you. And as you know, if you follow this broadcast, you can type your comments or questions into whatever platform you're watching the program on, and they'll show up here in my chat room beside my face on the screen, and we can talk directly. And I want to wish everyone, oh, and hello to Mary Cavalcante. It's good to see you, Mary. And I want to wish everyone watching a happy Imbolc in the Northern Hemisphere and a happy Lughnassadh in the Southern Hemisphere. And hello to Tom in the chat room. It's good to see you. And today I was going to talk about these sabbats, Imbolc and Lughnassadh, and a little bit about their history, a little bit about their current practice, and a little bit about why I think it's important to acknowledge both at once. And hello to Sir Edward in the chat room. If you follow my general work, and hello to Renee in the chat room. And if you follow my general work, you'll know that for a number of years now, I've made it a point to acknowledge both the Northern and the Southern Hemisphere Sabbat at the same time in many cases. And I started doing this back when we were doing radio ritual, and we realized we had an international audience, as we do for Midday with Reverend Don, and that not everyone was celebrating the Northern Hemisphere Sabbat, and that we needed to also include the Southern. And hello to Janet in the chat room. It's good to see you, Janet. And hello to Christine in the chat room. It's good to see you, Christine. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Sabbat today. We found that not only was it more inclusive, but I found that it shed a greater understanding for me personally on the inner nature of the ceremonies. That when you compare them to their opposite in the Wheel of the Year, you find that they're both really dealing with the same subject, but in different ways. For example, Imbolc is the dawn of the year, the beginning, traditional beginning of spring. It is the opening of the season of growth. Lughnassadh is the beginning of the harvest, and it is the conclusion of the growing cycle and the start of the harvest cycle. Both related to that growing cycle, both related to the things we grow in our lives. One with the sowing and one with the reaping, for want of a better way to put it. But when you look at them together, there's definitely a lot of light they shed on one another. Now, when I was a child, we did not usually use these terms. We did not usually refer to Imbolc as Imbolc, but as Candlemas. Something I still frequently do, and I know I'm not the only one who still frequently does that. And Lughnassadh is more commonly called Lammas, which is also still frequently used. Candlemas and Lammas are actually the names of the Christian celebrations that were placed on top of these sabbats, and basically kept their memory alive in many places and extended it around the world. But when I was young, they were the names that even pagans commonly used to refer to the ceremonies. And the name Candlemas had a strong effect, I think, on how we celebrated this Sabbat, because it was always very big on candles. It is the Sabbat of the return of the light, the beginning of the return of the light. And again, it is the dawn of the year. When we look at Candlemas or Imbolc, we are looking at the idea, if we think of the year as a day, this is the beginning of the dawn. And dawn does not begin with the rising of the sun over the horizon. It begins with the lightening of the night sky. And that's usually what we see at this point. We don't suddenly find ourselves in most years seeing all the little signs of spring at this time. And in fact, there's the ancient oracle of the groundhog or various other animals to see whether there will or will not be another 6 weeks of winter, which is to say whether winter will continue until Ostara. And hello to Nikki in the chat room. It's good to see you, Nikki. I cannot help but notice that here in Danville today is a very lovely day. So I imagine we have a bit more winter coming. That would fit the traditional oracle. The problem with the traditional oracle is people try to expand it beyond their local area, as for example, um, the groundhog rights of Punxsutawney Phil and others. But whether or not that oracle goes one way or another is the local weather, not the weather for everyone. I actually am a great believer in that oracle, and there's a lovely story that basically this is the day in which the crone goddess of winter is collecting her firewood for the remainder of the season. And if she's planning for it to be a short season, she doesn't worry about the weather. It can be a dark, cloudy, rainy, snowy day. It doesn't matter because she's not looking for a lot of wood. She knows it's soon to end. But if she needs a lot of wood, it will be a bright, sunny day. And that's kind of what we have today. So I would expect that we will see a little bit more winter. But this is very much the holiday of the beginning of the dawn. When I was young, and still today, of course, that likening of the year and the day had a lot of importance. Each Sabbat corresponded to a part of the day, and the deities associated with Imbolc were very much deities of the dawn, deities connected to fire, particularly the goddess Briad, Briantia, but also other similar goddesses. And the beginning of the dawn. And I have observed, and of course, it depends where you're at, what you're going to observe seasonally. And this too is not a universal thing, but when I was young, I did observe that it was after this point we would start to see the first signs of spring. And sometimes they'd come a little too soon before the final winds of winter had blown. But you'd start to see the coming of buds on the trees and so forth. And so in my mind, it is very much the beginning of spring, but sometimes a very slow beginning. Now, Lammas, or Lughnassadh, is the beginning of the harvest. We usually celebrate it with the offering of the first fruits. And of course, when we talk about the harvest season, once again, this is a blanket statement. There are plenty of things being harvested before Lughnassadh, depending especially on where you are in the world. But it represents and honors the harvest. And again, one of the most common rites of this holiday is to offer the first fruits, perhaps of your garden, in ancient times of your fields. And even if you've already started the harvest, now is the time for the offering. And it's a time to think about, just as Imbolc is a time to think about what you want to do in the coming year, Lughnassadh is a time to think about what you have done, what you are reaping from your actions, and how you may adjust them as you go forward in your life. It's a time to see how the fields have grown this year, and if you want to plant the same crops for next year. And of course, we're speaking metaphorically here, and of course also sometimes literally, because for many people, when we talk about the festivals of harvest, we are talking about an actual harvest in their fields or their gardens, as well as in their lives. So these are the meanings of these holidays. And Candlemas, or Imbolc, is very much connected to the return of the light, to purification, to renewal. One of the old customs connected to this holiday is when it begins to open all of the windows and doors of your house and sweep out the negativity, despite the fact it might be cold. and bring in any positivity with the change of the season. You want to sweep out whatever negative that you may have been holding on to through the winter and bring in the positive you want to manifest as you go forward. And this was one of the big things we did when I was young. The rituals at this time of year, when I was young especially, were very big on the use of candles. In the Christian religion, the festival of Candlemas has among its customs that all of the candles that would be used in the churches were blessed on this day. In the pagan observation of Imbolc, at least that I have, as I have celebrated it all these years, we don't really necessarily have that aspect, but the candles are very important because they physically reenact the return of the light, which we're hoping to hasten at this time. And the festival is all about the lengthening of the days, the return of the light, the moving toward the full blossom of the spring. And it was also historically a very big time for initiations and other life changes because people wanted to tie into that energy of purification and renewal going forward. And I think that these are very important aspects still for us to focus on. So what I would like to suggest for you is to take a few minutes to think about those things if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, those things that you want to let go of with the departing winter, and the things you want to develop with the coming spring. What do you want to see blossom and grow in the fields of your life? Think about this a little bit. Think about where you want to put your attention, where you want to put your spiritual fertilizer, so to speak. And in a few minutes, we will do a short visualization in honor of the Sabbat. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, as I know that some of our viewers are, think about the things that you expect to be harvesting in this season of harvest. And how did you get there? Are you pleased with what's coming to you? Do you wish to continue down that road? Think about your actions and the results of your actions, and how that will affect your future actions. And again, in a few moments, we'll come back to this with a brief visualization. To me, Candlemas has always been a particularly important ceremony. For one thing, I had my investiture as first priest of the Correllian tradition effectively at Candlemas, actually on the 6th of February, which is when we gathered that particular year. And on the 6th of this February will be the 45th year since that date. I am now retired in office, but still among the first priesthood of the tradition. And Lady Crystal and I both were invested together on that day. This year, at the spring lustration, we'll be having a very similar ceremony for Lady Alyssa and Lord Phoenix, who will both be invested on the same day, something that has not happened for 45 years. And I think that will be quite the historic moment in Correllianism. And an interesting moment for me as an individual to see this happen again. And it certainly went well the first time, so I have high hopes for the second. Other things that have made February important to me, tomorrow is the birthday of Lady Bitterwind. Were she still living, she would be 79 years old tomorrow. Lady Bitterwind, we've talked about her quite a bit, and we'll probably talk about her a little bit tomorrow, but she was a vital influence on my life, a vital influence on Correllianism. She was one of a number of people, not unlike Sir Edward, who looked at everything just a little differently than anyone else, and therefore brought realizations other people did not see. She was brilliant in her theology, Discordian in her outlook, and considered herself to be specifically Discordian as well as Correllian. The Correllian tradition has a major thread of Discordianism running through it, and Lady Bitterwind has been one of the bearers of that thread. And when I look back on my youth and my life, she was a major role in it. And every year at this time, um, we honor her birthday and the continuing influence of her spirit. And she was unlike any other person. I always think of that as a great compliment. I know that some people are far more interested in conformity and being like everyone else. Um, that definitely was not Lady Bitterwind. She was very much her own energy, and um, that made her very special. She, when she chose her wardrobe, if there were several choices, and one was more colorful than all the others, um, and perhaps more outlandish in its design, that's the one she would pick. And as a result, you always knew what her energy was. It was vibrant and very much alive, um, and unlike anyone else. Now that we've had a few minutes to think about uh, our lives, I'd like you to join me in a brief little visualization in honor of the two sabbats occurring in the two hemispheres today. And let us take a moment to become aware of our heart chakra. And feel your heart chakra within your chest. Feel it shining out like a beautiful sun, full of the white light of spirit. The white light that moves through all things, that moves through us and everything around us. And let us call into ourselves the energies of the universe, filling us with additional ambient energy. And as you do so, see that light grow stronger and brighter, expanding all around you. And Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we take this moment, Sabbat of Imbolc and the Sabbat of Lughnassadh, of Candlemas and Lammas, and many other names. In the north, we take a moment to think of where our lives are going, and take this moment to think of those things that we were reflecting on a few moments ago, the things that you want to see grow during the spring of this year, and imagine them between your hands. See them in visual images, or feel them as energy between your hands, as a kind of psychic seed. And imagine yourself standing in a field, the sun just beginning to show its light over the horizon. And kneel down and make a little hole in the ground, and place your seeds within that hole, and see them going into that hole, and cover it over. And behold, in this moment, we empower these things that we wish to see grow into our lives. We see the white light around them grow stronger and brighter. We see them develop fully within the earth. See them move from the idea of what they will be to what you want them to be. And know that in this moment, they are coming to pass and they are yours. They just have to take the time to manifest in the world. See it as strongly as you can. And Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we ask you to help us to empower this manifestation, so that this plant will grow strong in our lives. These many plants will grow strong in our lives. This field will grow strong in our lives. By our will it, we draw it to us. We see the pattern and we align it. We manifest it, so mote it be, and it is so. Now, if you happen to be in the Southern Hemisphere, let us take a moment to see between our hands all those things that we are harvesting in our lives. things that have already come to pass or are on the verge of coming to pass, and that are the results of our actions. And think about the actions that brought you to this place. Did it bring you where you wanted to be? Did it bring you to where you wished to be? If it did not, take this moment to resolve that you will examine why and what will need to be changed for a more successful outcome as you go forward. You don't have to have that change in this moment. This too will grow over time, but place it into your hands along with the things you are harvesting. Both the grateful receipt of the result of your work and also whatever changes you want to make as you go forward. See them strongly in your hands and imagine yourself standing in the field. But now we see the sun beginning to go down over the horizon, and the field is full of plants. And what you're holding in your hand represents these. And take a moment to notice the quality of the plants in your field. Are they healthy? Are they abundant? Are they perhaps not abundant? Are they not healthy? This speaks to what you're harvesting in your life at this time. And at this time, let us resolve that we shall learn the lessons of this harvest when in time we prepare for the next one. Now let us take all the good from that field. Let us see it come into our hands. All of the good results of our actions. And let us take also the lessons of both the good and bad results of our actions so that we may learn from them as we go forward. Place these into your hands as well and bring it all into your heart. And see it entering your heart and filling your aura. And behold, Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, in this moment we accept the harvest of our lives, we take the good from it, and we also take the bad that we may learn from this as we go forward. We accept responsibility for all that we have created, and we resolve going forward that we will create more good than bad, and that we will look at those things that are successful and replicate them, and look at those things that were not and find other ways. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for this harvest and all that it brings us. And may you be blessed always. And now take a moment to think about what you have manifested in the Northern Hemisphere and what you have accepted in the Southern Hemisphere, and give thanks for it in both cases. Whether we are sowing our field or reaping it, it is all about what we have done and its results. Let us be mindful of the results of our actions as we go forward. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you now and always. So mote it be. And let the image fade from your mind, let the energy fade from your mind, and take a moment to clear and release all excess. Let it pour out of you like water running down through your arms and your legs and out into the universe. And this is just a very simple little visualization for the holiday. And I want to say hello to Anna in the chat room, hello to Jeff in the chat room, hello to Nikki in the chat room. It's good to see all of you. And one of the interesting things that we do, at least attempt to put a strong emphasis on in modern paganism, is owning the results of our actions. And being humans, this is more successful sometimes than others, but I see it as very much part of our Sabbat cycle. That, for example, now at Imbolc, we think about the actions we're going to take. At Lammas, we think about the actions we have taken, and particularly even more so at Mavon. We think about the effect we have in the world. And, we're only human. Sometimes it takes us longer to learn the lessons of our lives. But this is very much part of what we're here to do. And people often ask me historically, why are we in this life? And there are a lot of reasons. One is to enjoy it, although we often do everything but. But the more that we can enjoy it, the more that we can find joy in our lives, I think the more we're fulfilling our reason for being here. Learning um, the effects of our actions in the physical world, learning the lessons this world has to teach us, major reason we're here. And the more that we do of that, the more we fulfill our purposes. And in my mind, one of the biggest reasons we're here is to continue to expand the expression of spirit in the physical world, to continue to become more spiritually empowered and focused as we go forward. And I've spoken before that I feel that the current changes in technology are actually part of that process, and that we will see in the next generation or so increasingly spiritual applications of the physical developments that we're seeing now. And I think we're already starting to. And hello to Mystique in the chat room. And Mystique says, I was knitting while visualizing. It was perfect. Absolutely. And activities like knitting are a wonderful physical aspect of manifesting if you choose to use them that way. I remember often wondering how in previous generations, when fabric was all woven by hand, um, how a person could deal with that tedious process, until I realized it also must have been very meditative and a wonderful form for manifesting. I can easily see why, for example, the deities associated with fate are often associated with weaving and other textile arts, how each thread connects to another, just as each thread of the universal web connects to another. And I think this is an important aspect of the universe. So with that, I see that we're coming down toward the end of our half hour. And I want to take a moment to recommend you to my Patreon. If you like the things I do, a good way to support them is through Patreon. You can find my Patreon at revdonlewis.com. On, um, on that site, you can find out all the things I'm doing on Patreon. And I hope that we will perhaps see you there. I also want to recommend you to Corellian Publishing, where we have many things for sale and many new things coming. And I hope that you enjoy that. And here you will see us continuing on Corellian TV as we go forward. And I hope that we'll continue to see you as we go forward with Midday with Rev Don. And I want to thank you for being with me. I love spending this time with you. And I have loved doing this show with you for all these many months, and look forward to continuing it for many more. So with that, let us close with our prayer, as we always do. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives. We rejoice in your presence, both at this holy time of Sabbat and at every day in our lives, for we know you are always here. But from respect, knowing you are always here, still we thank you for your presence now and always. And may you be blessed now and always. So mote it be. And we thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always as well. And we shall see you tomorrow.